When we need a word to describe someone who's particularly clever and devious, we often settle on Machiavellian. Machiavelli, the Prince of Darkness, who lived in Florence and who, 500 years ago, wrote what was to become the ultimate spin doctor's manual. It's called The Prince, and that's not my description of the book. That comes from the man I'm about to talk to, Professor Stephen Milner, Serena Professor of Italian at Manchester University. Good morning to you.
Good morning, John.
It's a fascinating description. I've never seen it described like that before. Why?
Well, because it's a wonderful manual that seems to be timeless in terms of describing to people how to manage their self-presentation, we all work for organisations that have sought to bury news at certain times, I'm quite sure,
Yes.
how to maintain good face.
So it's all about reputation management, really?
It's very much about reputation. It's about the strategic management of self-presentation, which is why it's still set on business courses for people who are estate agents and
Really?
are working in sales.
I didn't realise that it was. So, because you're an expert, obviously, on Machiavelli. In fact, didn't you discover the original copy of a proclamation calling for his arrest?
Yes, no, I've been working on the figure of the town crier, our kind of latter-day broadcasters in the pre-modern world, particularly in Florence. And Machiavelli was actually arrested because he was identified as being potentially part of a conspiracy to overthrow the Medici when they returned to Florence. And so they captured him and they sent out this proclamation through the streets of Florence that were issued by the city's town crier, asking for people to hand over information to the police force within the hour. There was some urgency about his capture. He seems to have been kind of public enemy number one in Florence at that particular moment. And I came across the document whilst looking through a whole series of these proclamations, because I was interested in looking at the way that information circulates within cities in the pre-modern period.
Fascinating. But he really was a significant character.
Yes, no, he engendered quite a degree of jealousy amongst his contemporaries because he actually wasn't a member of the political class. He was actually a civil servant. But such was his influence within the regime under Soderini before the return of the Medici family to Florence that he actually took on diplomatic and political missions which were way above his station. And so there's some kind of conspiracy theory that, in fact, the conspiracy against the Medici it included Machiavelli, even though there's no evidence that he was actually involved. And even though they tortured him, he wasn't actually found to be guilty of complicity within the plot. But nevertheless, they kept him under very close house arrest on a farm outside the city.
Wow.
And that's where he actually started to write The Prince.